Welcome everybody to the February 6th, 2018 webinar. It's the first one of the year. We moved the January webinar to today. That way those that have all the January deadline things can work on that, focus on that. So welcome everybody. So hopefully everybody can hear me. So if you can, go ahead and let me know. We always have a few people that can't, but we'll show that in the next slide. So today we're going to talk about what's new for this week. A lot coming out in February. We're going to have two robust webinars in February, the January and the previously scheduled February webinar. Obviously, we're going to only be able to cover questions related to today's webinar, and most of the questions we're not going to be able to get to today in the webinar. So, but we will save them all, capture all your questions, and get those posted on our webinar page. For those that are having audio issues, we don't have a call-in number because we allow over 1,000 people to come on in. So, and the webinar system doesn't give us a call-in number. So that's why you have to use your computer audio for that. So welcome everybody. And so hopefully everybody survived this weekend. I heard there was some sporting event going on this weekend. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I heard there was one. Anyway, so if you could let me know if you can hear me. I got one hello so far from Atlanta, but if you can find your little question box and let me know if you can hear me, that would be good. Yes, okay, that's helpful. Is there any sound right now? That's why I have that slide up. So is there anybody out there that can hear me? A few people. Am I coming through loud and clear? Good. Okay. Hello from Wisconsin. Okay. Now that's somebody that knows where to live. Actually from Wisconsin. So, okay, they can hear me. That's good. 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 So I'm partial to Wisconsin since I spent the first 30 years of my life there. So, okay, good. You can hear loud and clear. We like that. Okay. So where are you from? Austin, Texas, Fort Worth. Okay, good. Okay, so there's always a few people that have some audio issues, so let's see here. We are going to get all fired up here in just a couple of minutes. Just want to make sure, welcome everybody in, make sure everything's working, make sure the sound is working, all that good stuff. So, so make sure everybody's having a wonderful day today. Oh, we're coast to coast, Minnesota. Well, you had a big event there this weekend, Minnesota. Also, today we're going to have 1.5 CPE credits for today. So this is going to be a 90-minute webinar. Hopefully everybody got the messaging on that, but you know, if you need to leave, I understand. The February 27th webinar will also be a 90-minute webinar, which will produce 1.5 CPE credits. Those will be emailed to the email address that you registered with. Every month we get a few people looking for that. Sometimes you need to look in your spam folder, whatever folder that likes to hide some of your email. It's going to be coming from accountant training _training into it, like all the other CPE credits do from our ProAdvisor program. So look for that in about 3 weeks. This will be recorded for those that kind of miss out on pieces. The recording will be posted on our webinar page. That link will be in towards the end of the webinar, and it'll also be in the follow-up email. There's an email that will go out that will have the links referred to in the webinar, so you don't have to worry about trying to capture links or wonder where all that stuff is. That will be all in the follow-up email about 1 hour after the end of the webinar. For those that are not in U.S., this is U.S. content specific, although most of the features QuickBooks is QuickBooks around the world. There's just slightly different features, maybe a different rollout plan for different regions. So everything is still applicable. There's nothing that's not going to be applicable to your region. It's just a matter of maybe timing. Some regions get it before the U.S., some regions get it after the U.S. It just depends upon the nature of the content. Again, we're going to only address questions related to the presentations today. But as we're going through the presentations, we do want all your feedback, even though we're not going to be able to answer all the, we're not going to really be responding to questions in the chat. So a lot of people are not used to the chat not being responded to. So we'll get started here in about 3 minutes. So again, it's the email that you can expect your CPE credits to come from. Outer Banks, North Carolina. Sounds like a pretty, okay, sound. Okay, sound issues. Typically we find most sound issues are some kind of computer related. We apologize that we always have a few people that have some sound issues. As far as CPE credits, you'll want to email, and I'll mention that when we get to the CPE slide coming up here in a couple of moments. There is a handout. It should find that in your dashboard. Let me check. Yeah, so there's a little document symbol just under the question thing. That's where you'll find the handout. We actually have, first time we formally have a handout, so hopefully that's going to be helpful. And I'll refer to that at the end of the webinar, so no worries. And we are going to get started here in just about a minute. Okay, we'll get started here in just a few moments. Everybody else get in the door. Welcome to the February 6th, 2018 In the Know webinar, where we cover the monthly updates in QBO. It's USA content specific, although it's specific to the USA. It's still applicable to all the other regions. There just might be a slight little bit of difference in some of the aspects and some of the timing, but otherwise the content is relevant to everybody that's here. So welcome everybody. Hopefully everybody had a good January and made the deadlines. I am Wesley Booth. I'm a customer care agent here in Tucson. I've been with Intuit for 4 years now. I'm on the National Accounts Care team where I help service some of the largest QBOA firms that we have. And my passion is for training. It's one of the reasons why I have the opportunity to do this, because I want to make sure everybody is trained and up to speed with the products, because that way we're more efficient. So we're going to get into the agenda. We have a full day today, so we're going to kind of get launched and off and running here. Going to have a few announcements, a few updates, some exciting stuff today. We're redesigning the invoice emails to make them more productive, more efficient, more effective, because we want to make sure with those invoices people are going to get paid. So that's where we're doing that. Progress invoice, you've been hearing about that. We had a presentation a few months ago. It is coming very, very soon. We're going to have a nice in-depth presentation, so you'll be ready for that when you start seeing that shortly. We've got some ProAdvisor updates. Tax season's coming right on us, and a lot of you make a lot of your business is in tax, so we want to make sure that we can maximize your tax business this year. We got some payroll updates. I got about 2 or 3 of those that we're going to cover, and then QuickBooks Capital financing for small businesses, and there's some some cool things there that you're going to want to be aware of, and we want to make sure that you're aware of it so you can make sure all of your clients are aware of the financing that is available to them, because many businesses struggle with just a little bit extra money just to make it over, buying inventory or whatever they need. So again, this is focused for the USA, even though other regions, there's going to be slight differences, but it is relevant to everybody regardless of whether you're in Canada or even the UK. And then we're going to get into the CPE credits and learning objectives in just a moment. And so why this slide is up for those that can't hear, the reason why we do this is because there is no dial-in number, and I apologize for that, but with the system that allows over 1,000 people to attend, this system doesn't allow for a call-in number. That's why we have to use the computer audio, and I see most of you were having good audio, so that's good. So I just want to make sure if anybody can't hear, they can take care of that. The CPE process, you must answer all the polling questions throughout the training. We might even have an extra polling question. They're all numbered, so if you're curious as to what poll question we are on, each one will be numbered. This webinar, if you're here for the full 90 minutes or till we're through the end, we may be just a minute or two short of the 90 minutes, so no worries. But if you answer the poll questions, you're here for the whole time, you will be eligible for the 1.5 credit hours. Those will be emailed to you in about 3 weeks, and notice the tip there. Make sure that you're aware of that email when it comes from accountant_training@intuit.com. Make sure it gets through all your email filters. So, learning objectives today. This is a pretty condensed version. There's going to be a lot more content we want you to take away, but we want to be able so you can understand and utilize these new email invoices. So not only for better functionality, ease of use, and impact, but basically we want to be able to get them on the devices where people are getting their invoices. They can get paid quicker. And we also have progress invoicing, and this is one of probably the #1 feature requests we've had in QBO to date, and it is now coming to QBO near you, where you can use estimates and then generate partial invoices as the job progresses. Many contractors need that feature, so we're rolling that out here the next few weeks. ProAdvisor enhancements. We've done a lot of work, back-end work. That is the single biggest source, our ProAdvisor website, of businesses connecting with accountants on the planet. And we've fine-tuned that so you can to maximize your tax expertise. The role of payroll impact. We're going to be explaining some of the new features for direct deposit, and there's also, it's going to be an ID change. Every time we make changes, I know there's always a few hiccups, but we want to let you know that we're making the system more secure and more functional all the way around. And then our learning objective here for QuickBooks Capital is really so you can help your small business attain the funding they need. This webinar is part of the Accountant University. A lot of the webinars and stuff, training events, have been on hold for season, and so the virtual conferences will be coming back in March. The in-person trainings will be returning in May, so you always want to plug into all the other ProAdvisor training that we have available. And what I want to announce here today is T-Sheets is now part of Intuit. We acquired T-Sheets on January 11th, and so we have somebody from T-Sheets here, and I want to welcome them and thank them for being part of Intuit and how it's going to help you as ProAdvisors and your staff. And for that brief welcome and introduction, we have Dan Buckingham. Thanks for presenting today, Dan.
Thanks so much, Wesley. Thanks so much for having us on. Hello, everyone. The news is true. Intuit did acquire T-Sheets in January 11th. Been partners and family of Intuit for many years, as a lot of you know. So it's really great to finally make it official and get further embedded into the ecosystem. For those of you that don't know T-Sheets, we're the #1 rated application within the QuickBooks Online ecosystem, streamlining the time capture and scheduling for small and medium businesses to better enhance billing and invoicing for billing and invoicing and payroll. So great news for all of you out there. What does the acquisition mean? Well, our teams are going to be working even closer together to provide better tools and data capture across the two platforms, QBO and T-Sheets. And two things to kind of take away from today. You're going to hear a lot more from us in the coming months and over the next couple years. But two main things is if you don't have a free T-Sheets account, there is a link to get signed up for one in the handout, as Wesley mentioned. So get in there, integrate it with QBO, test the features that are already in existence, and get ready for some new really exciting ones. And then the second thing is we just launched in January, following the acquisition, a new certification platform. And we actually have 3 different tiers of certification. So even if you are out there, you already have an account, you're already certified, jump into that handout and click on the link and check out the new learning tracks that we have. Like I said, you'll hear a lot more from us in the coming months and over the next year. Thank you so much, Wesley, for having us, and we look forward to continuing to work with everyone out there.
Thanks, Dan. We're glad to have you part of the family, and I know this is going to be better for our time tracking in QuickBooks now that we have, one of the best time tracking systems integrated now with our systems, so that's going to be good. So I'm going to jump into a number of updates here. We've covered this next topic in a presentation on December 21st, and and you'll see the link for that presentation on our webinar page. So what we want to do is we want to give more functionality in the products and services. We just want to continually make all of our features more robust. And here this slide showing that we've now added a class to inventory items. And on this slide, we also have introduced a preferred vendor. So a lot of times you buy one item from one vendor, your preferred vendor, and now it's going to be part of the setup on the products and features. So it's just going to be a little bit more convenient for that. Another thing is that top row now on your products and services page, we've frozen that. So now when you scroll all the way down, it's going to be there so you don't have to remember what column that was. And we are going to have reorder points coming up soon where when you go ahead, click on that product, hit reorder, and that's going to be coming pretty soon. Then on the next item I want to cover really quick is deposit screens. Okay, now this slide probably takes a little bit of a study, but you don't have to sit here and meditate or remember it right off the screen here because it will be in your handout. So what we've done is on the left-hand side is what it used to look like, and on the right-hand side is where we're heading if we haven't completely, that second one there in February. I don't know if we actually have that right now, but that slide is going to make, what we're going to do there is going to make things, the terminology is just going to be more accurate, less question generating, and that type of thing. So that's what we have there. And then on the bank download screen, we've also done some clarification there. And so we have number one. Okay, what we did there, we wanted to make a more descriptive label that helps explain what that page is all about. The 2 there, pointing to that green button, the solid green shape is going to represent a single transaction to match. Well, but then a lot of times you have multiple match. So that's where the other number 2 is where that white background match button is. And what that's going to do, that's going to bring up a detailed screen. So you can match that. And to find that detail, you can just hit the view section. And that's going to encourage you to make a more informed choice on those matches when you have multiple matches. So we wanted to try to clarify that. And this is like anything else we have in our product. Please, 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 please give us feedback because some of these features, we make the software. I know I talk to accountants, but it's in the day-to-day use of the products where you say, hey, if we had it this way, we had it that way, give us feedback. There's always a feedback button off that gear in the top right corner. So, in fact, this next item here is, what's going on here? We're going to add a new client. Well, what happens if the client doesn't have a QBO subscription? Well, it hasn't been really clear or straightforward in the past. So what we've done now is when you go to add a client, we now have the no subscription right now there on the right. And what that also does, that takes away the QBO products That way it's going to be less confusing and much more straightforward. Okay, so we have another product announcement here that I won't do, but I want to introduce merchant payment statements, something we plugged in there to make things a little bit more organized on when you have a merchant services on those payment statements. And to talk to that, we have Justin today. He's the product manager in the payments areas. Thanks for presenting this announcement today, Justin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wesley. I'm super happy to be here and talk to you more about payment statements. So payment statements, as some of you know, they show a monthly overview of the transactions and fees applied to a merchant's payment account. So if a QBO customer has a payment merchant account attached to it, every month a payment statement is generated for them if they processed any payments and if any fees were applied to their account. So inside of QBO, we're going to show up to 2 years of these statements. And then in terms of when to expect this statement to be available, in the current month, you can expect the previous month's statement to be available 5 days before. And yeah, and as we can see now, payment statements are located in accountant settings under the payment section, and then there's this new widget we added here for the documents. And this houses your monthly statements, and there's a drop-down where you can select up to two years prior, and also accountants will have access to their clients' statements within here. So if we go to the next screen, we can see an example of what these statements look like. It's an overall aggregated view of the transactions and fees for that month. So this can be super helpful for your small businesses, especially as a proof of any transaction that was made. So thank you, Wesley, and thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate that. Hope that'll be helpful for everybody on the merchant side. And our first presentation is redesigned invoice emails. There's a lot going on with these. Get them to your laptop, mobile devices, and we basically want to make sure you guys get paid as quickly as possible, as well as your customers. And to present a redesigned invoice emails today, we have Sia Yang. She's a product manager out of Mountain View, California. She's a product manager with the payments team, and one of her passions is helping small businesses get paid, and that's exactly what this kind of the method behind this email is. She also enjoys hiking and reading comic books, so she does have a life as well. So thanks for presenting today, Sia.
Thanks, Leslie. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here. How's everyone doing? Very excited to be showing kind of the new updates to the invoice emails today. So the functionality is live for about 250 US users right now, and will be rolling out to more small businesses over the next month or so. So going into product here, what I want to show you first is what I mean by an invoice email. So going into an invoice in QuickBooks Online, what I mean by the invoice email is what gets sent to the small business's customer when he or she hits Save and Send. So you guys are probably well aware of what it looks like right now. This is it here. And what we heard from users, small businesses, is that this is kind of not really working for them in that it really emphasizes the Intuit QuickBooks brand here with the QuickBooks screen and the QuickBooks logo. And another thing we heard is that there's not much detail in here. Customers have to click on View Invoice to be brought to a web page to see the actual invoice. And also, we know from our data that more people are opening and accessing their emails from their mobile phones. But if you've seen this email before on your mobile phone, you're probably well aware that it doesn't look really good on a mobile phone. You've got to kind of pinch it with your fingers to kind of zoom in to look at what actually is in the email. So what we did was to redesign this invoice email here to make it work well on a mobile phone so that small businesses can access and pay their invoices anytime, anywhere, on a mobile phone, on a tablet, and on a laptop. So I'm going to switch to an iPhone now to show you what the new invoice email looks like. So this is the new invoice email. And the first thing you see is that the small business brand is front and center of the invoice. You'll see the small business logo and business name up front. And if you keep scrolling through the email, you'll see that the invoice details are in the email itself. And customers who receive this can very easily click on the button to pay their invoice directly. And one thing is that we have now new accent colors within the email so that small businesses can pick the color that best represents their business. And a question that we got when we showed this design to small businesses is, oh, that's cool. I guess it's cool that I have a summary of the invoice in my email. But one thing to clarify is that this email will have all the details of the invoice in the email itself. It's just been designed in a more streamlined manner so you get all of the information without being overwhelmed. So how do you know if your customer has this new email? So I mentioned it's kind of live for 250 people right now, but not all. So how you know if your client has it is if you click on the Save and Send button and you have the modal that comes up, the preview on the right will show you the email, the new invoice email, if your client has it. So again, this was what I wanted to show, the redesigned invoice email. Again, benefits are your client's small business brand front and center, and the invoice details directly in the invoice itself so that customers can also very quickly search their inboxes to find invoices. So happy to take any questions right now.
Okay, thanks, Sia. So there again, please put any questions you may have related to this topic in the question box. One of the things we do is Sia will be seeing every single one of these questions, even though I won't be able to get through them all today. And my staff here is not going to be able to respond to those in the questions. But we will get all of these questions on our webpage in a week or two. So all the questions will be responded to on that webpage. We want to capture any questions you may have. One of the things I want to clarify, Sia, is what is the rollout plan? If only 250 people are getting it right now, when can we expect more and more people ramping up and getting this new feature?
That's a great question. So we were a bit conservative during the initial rollout, and that's why we only rolled it out to 250 people. That's because we know that small businesses get a bit cautious when there are updates to what their customers see. So we wanted to kind of pause and kind of get feedback. So far, it's been doing well, and we're gonna, towards the end of this week, roll out to about 8,000 users. And then the week after that, another kind of 10 to 20,000 additional users. And depending on how feedback goes, we will either kind of ramp up the pace of exposing this to more users or slow it down. So the long and short of it is potentially a month and a half. But if people are taking it well, we could do it faster as well.
Okay, I just want to throw out one thing for the audience there. So we have a month and a half or so rollout, but if you heard her, the next 2 weeks or so, about 30,000 clients, and that's why we have it here this week. And we'll give an update on the February 27th webinar how that's progressing. That way you have a better feel, because we want to make sure you see it here before you see it in your client company. So when the client asks about something, we can say, hey, yeah, it's okay, I expected that. I didn't know exactly when it was going to hit. But that's why we kind of cover things a little bit early. So you know, so the next 2 weeks or so, we can expect 30,000 of our clients to be seeing this. So that's why we want to make sure that you guys have a heads up on that. That's pretty much about the questions related to that. The others are very specific. So we'll get to those very specific questions as we move forward in that progress, and also that we'll have all the questions to all the presentation, the entire webinar, posted on our webinar page in about a week. So thanks for presenting today, Sia. Appreciate your information today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to jump into our most requested feature. This is going to be awesome for your construction companies and those kinds of people. So progress invoicing. The number one requested feature we have is going to help where you'll be able to work through getting paid the way your businesses actually work. And for that presentation today, we have Pavan Singh, and busy guy there making sure that this product is really robust enough to really make it to prime time, which is coming very, very, very soon. That's why he's back again. So he's a product manager on QuickBooks Online team. He's passionate about making small business manage their books, and this is one of the things that a lot of companies need. They need this progress invoicing. He loves to travel international parks, so thanks for presenting today, Pavan.
Thank you, Wesley. Thank you so much for having me here. And hi, everyone. Good morning to you all, and I'm so excited to be here today to actually share with you more news and information about progress invoicing and the new improvements we've made since the last time I presented here. So the last time I was here, we did a brief demo of progress invoicing, and we went a little bit into the flows, and I was seeking feedback from some small businesses on how they were finding our feature helpful and what changes they would like to make. And so with the benefit of feedback from a few hundred users, we've made some improvements to the progress invoicing experience, and I'm here to talk about that. And additionally, we've been working with SIA's invoicing email team, and we've made sure that this progress invoicing flow is working really nicely with the new invoice email designs that Sia just showed to you. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So let's jump right in, and I want to make sure I leave enough time for any questions you might have. So what is progress invoicing? So if you're working with field services or professional services, these businesses end up invoicing their clients over a period of time, and so that is why this is really the incremental invoicing of work by these small businesses. And these invoice increments can be based upon the stages of the project that are going on. Sometimes small businesses agree on a predetermined schedule or a contract with their clients, or sometimes they're even declaring it inside QuickBooks, inside the estimate feature we have. And then the estimates feature is where you're describing all the stages there. So for a long time, QuickBooks did not have the ability to actually let you invoice in increments. And what I mean by increments is this flow right here. So for example, if you came to QuickBooks to actually create an estimate, we would only create the first invoice for you, and we would not support the creation of multiple invoices from a single estimate. So the feature my team has been working on is really to enable small businesses and as well as accountants to actually invoice multiple times from a single estimate. So here in this diagram, you can see you can invoice n times, invoice 1, invoice 2, up to the final invoice from this estimate. So let me just show you what the product really does. So starting over from an estimate, this is a standard estimate I'm creating for my client Daniel, and I'm doing a design project for him. So I'm working with for design for his office, and you can see there are quite a few line items here. And ultimately, I'm going to do a consultation with his contractor in the end, and so I'm billing him for 2 hours there for $500. But there is $1,000 of first design audit, and then $2,500 of the design concept. So the total estimate here is $4,000. Now I don't expect Daniel to pay me $4,000 in one single shot. So I'm going to invoice him one step at a time. So let's see how that works. So you can click on create invoice from the estimate flow. And then when you click on that estimate flow, you'll see we give you a modal which asks you, do you want to now invoice all the estimate lines, or do you want to invoice them in increments, or do you want to invoice them in a custom amount format? So for example, do you want to have really fine-grained control on what is going on the invoice? So this time I'm going to not charge him for all the estimate lines because I don't want him to pay right away. So I'm going to invoice him for 25% of each line you saw in the estimate. And so we also show you the calculation of what that means. And so these two fields can be used to actually enter and cross-calculate stuff. So that's really handy as well. So on the next screen, you'll see that after you've provided that input, the invoice is ready, and we've pre-filled this out with that 25% installment I'd specified on the previous model. And so these lines are ready now, and you can see they've been adjusted appropriately. Now I can actually modify each line by clicking within each line and then choosing what fraction I really want to invoice on the line basis, and I can change my mind, and that happens all the time, right? I thought I was going to invoice 25%, but no, I changed my mind. It's really 100% of line 1, and then it's a variable amount for line 2, and you can switch between two styles, like you can do a percentage based or an amount based slice of the line. And the third thing you can do is actually get rid of a line. So for example, hey, it's too early in the game for me to actually talk to Daniel about his contractor consultation. I don't want to show that on the invoice. I can quickly hit the trash icon, and then I can remove the line directly from the invoice, and that helps me hide that line right away, right? So now the invoice is looking really clean. I've mixed the presentation format here, and I'm ready to send out the invoice. So this is the work I was referring to on the invoice email side. So now here on this screen, you can actually see that, when I'm ready to send the email to Daniel, Daniel can look at his email and say, oh yes, Pawan is invoicing me for 25% of the design audit and $500 of the design concept. So that context of, the installment I'm requesting from Daniel is really clear to Daniel then. And the other thing we added based upon the feedback we heard from small businesses was, hey, it's not sufficient for us to mention just the percentage amount on the line. It also is required that we show what was the estimate about and what is this invoice charging my customer. And so over here at the bottom of the invoice email, this estimate summary can really be used to actually communicate that understanding. And so this avoids a lot of back and forth that you can have with your client about, hey, why are you charging me this? And what did you charge me last time? So over time, this becomes a sequence of all the invoices that you've created from this estimate, and all of those are referred to here, and you can very clearly see the amounts here. So back when you go to the estimate, and let's say you're coming back to this estimate after a few weeks and you're ready to create the second invoice or the third invoice, you'll actually see that we are linking all these invoices together for you. And so for example, if this was a series of invoices, you would see multiple invoices here. It would become 2 or 3 linked transactions, not just one linked transaction. The other handy thing on the estimate screen is you can actually look at the estimate and say, hey, how much has been invoiced so far and how much is remaining? And so that's very useful for me to actually find, to inform myself how far along the road am I to completely invoice this estimate. So again, I'm starting over to create the second invoice for Daniel because it's almost time and I've done the first round of designs. So let's this time do a custom amount for each line. And what this does is it does not pre-fill any amount on the line items. And so it will leave it to you to come to the invoice and then decide for yourself what do you really want to do. And one thing which we realized as people were going into this flow was that people really wanted information about how much was invoiced on this line item in the past. So if you actually click on this link, we'll actually present that information to you, and so you will know at the line item level what was invoiced last time and what is remaining so far. And so that is really useful because then you don't need to go back to the estimate to decide how much you want to invoice on a line basis. The other thing I wanted to recommend was, for your clients or for your own books, if you're going to turn on this feature, it will be really useful if you'll go in the customization section of invoices and you can enable show progress on line items. And this is a feature we are bringing to the email experience only. And so this will help you, send to Daniel or your client the information about, this is 50% of the design audit, or this is $500 of the $1,000. So that partial progress information can be communicated on email, but you'll need to go ahead and enable it from the customization section of the invoices. The second feature I'll recommend you also turn on from the customization section is the estimate summary. And so again, in the footer section of the customization screen, go ahead and click on estimate summary, and this is also really handy and really valuable. But the reason we made this a setting and we haven't enabled it by default for everyone is because each business is different, and while some businesses may really like to actually communicate this context to their clients, there are other businesses who actually don't want to put this information right away. They may want to test their way into this, and so that fine-grained ability and control is there for you if you want to choose this and show it to your customers or not. So the last thing I want to mention is there are, last time I came in, we were telling everyone we were going to open up this program and get more feedback. We are actually in a beta program right now. You can email progressinvoicingbeta@intuit.com, send us an email, and we are happy to actually enable your company ID and set it up for progress invoicing. Today, if you'll go ahead and look in settings menu, etc., you will probably not find this feature inside your QuickBooks account until we actually set you up for the beta program. So please email us if your clients are interested in this. And the information you need to send us when you email us is the company ID for your QuickBooks if you want to use it yourself, or your client's QuickBooks account if you want your clients to use this feature. And if you don't know what a company ID is, just go to your QuickBooks account, press Control, Alt, and question mark, and a pop-up screen comes up, and it actually tells and displays your company ID on the screen. So if you can send us your company ID at this email, we will set up progress invoicing for you. And we are also looking forward to opening up progress invoicing and enabling it for all QuickBooks Online customers in the US, and that is happening in the next month or so. And so, this beta capability is only going to exist for the next few weeks, and so you can give this a shot, but we will open it up more broadly as well next month or so, and then you would not need to email us to set this up. Thank you, Wesley. That's all I had.
Okay, if you could go back to that last slide, because I want everybody to capture that email, because that slide is missing in the handout. So, but one thing I want to highlight is notice how he talked about the feedback as they're improving it. So the rollout, I'm going to ask Pavan to address the rollout again here in just a moment. But one thing I want to ask is that everybody that has any questions related to this progress invoicing, please put them in the question box. We're going to get to a few here today. We got about 2 or 3 minutes for questions, so put them in there. The first question, Pavan, is which SKU? Is it Simple Start? Is it Plus? Is it Essentials? Which product are they going to have this feature in? It's going to be available in all the products?
Got it. Wesley, I'm very happy to say that progress invoicing will exist in Simple Start, Essentials, and Plus. So those are all the 3 SKUs for QuickBooks Online. All 3 of them are going to have progress invoicing.
Okay, I'm sure that's going to make a lot of people really happy. And also, if you could just address that rollout timing again. And in this beta, I just want to say that we want your feedback because we really want to make this a robust and solid program when we do roll this out here in the next few weeks. So if you could just address that once more, appreciate that.
Right. So the beta is currently open, and we are enabling customers to experience progress invoicing every week. And so if you send us the email, please give us like 3 or 4 days, and within 3 or 4 days we are turning on a bunch of companies every few days. And so that will continue till the end of February, and the end of February is when we will start enabling progress invoicing for most of these QuickBooks Online accounts. And again, these rollouts take a little bit of time, so it will take us a few weeks in March to actually roll this out to everyone. So if you are expecting this to, come alive in your QuickBooks account on the first day in March, probably will be difficult for us to meet that timeline. But the end of March, we will be there for most QuickBooks Online accounts in the U.S.?
Okay, so we have a lot of questions, not any repeating. Those were the ones that were repeated quite a bit. I'd love to be able to ask them some more questions, but we will give you an update on our February 27th webinar, and some people are asking where the handout is and webinar page. The third to the last slide, I believe it is, will give you the webinar link, and it will be in the follow-up email, and it is in the handout. The handout is on the right side of your webinar panel. It's that icon that looks like a piece of paper with the corner folded down. That's where you can get the handout. This slide, I do not believe, is in that handout. That's why I'm leaving that slide up for now. Okay, ProAdvisors, matching for tax. Many of you have tax as a major part of your business. So what we've done is we've enhanced the ProAdvisor website to get you more tax clients. And to present that today, we have Leah Wetzel. She's a product manager in the online accountant team. And she's passionate about connecting small businesses with their most trusted advisors. And our ProAdvisor website is the single largest venue on the planet for accountants like yourself to get customers. So we really take that seriously, matching thousands of people every month. So thanks for presenting today, Leah.
Awesome. Thanks, Wesley. So here I'm going to talk to you today about some enhancements that we're making to the Find-A-ProAdvisor marketplace that will help connect you with visitors who are seeking tax help. So when we worked with visitors who were looking on the Find-A-ProAdvisor site, we found that they said, oh, Find-A-ProAdvisor will help me be able to find someone that offers tax services, but it doesn't really feel like it's meant for me. It feels like it's really meant for those bookkeeping and accounting services versus tax. However, when we looked at the accountants who offer services on Find-A-ProAdvisor, we found that they offer multiple services to their clients, including tax, and that tax represents about 65% of an accountant's revenue. So we thought there's a mismatch here. We want to ensure that those visitors who are seeking tax help are able to connect with those accounting professionals who are offering tax services. So we've decided to introduce some new enhancements to the page. This is the Find-A-ProAdvisor search results page. The first is a more prominent display of tax-related credentials, specifically CPA credentials as well as enrolled agent credentials. So you can see here, we're now displaying the CPA and or enrolled agent label after someone's name if they have provided that designation on their profile. The next change that we made is a change to allow you to identify that you offer a free consultation. So if you make that update within your profile, that the offers free consultation banner will now appear on your profile in the search results page. Additionally, we are offering a new set of services provided. So that will allow visitors to search by different services and will also allow you to provide a more granular list of the services that you have to offer. And now I'll go into the product to kind of show you these changes. So most of you are familiar with your Find-A-ProAdvisor profile. One of the enhancements that we introduced was this new consultations section. You can see here that you can now identify that you offer a free consultation, and that will then appear on your profile on the Find-A-ProAdvisor marketplace. Additionally, we will be introducing a new set of services. So this is going to be new services in addition to some rewording of the existing services. And that is really to make sure that when consumers are coming in and searching on the site, that they understand exactly what services you offer and that it's a more robust set of services from the ones that are currently shown today. So with that, we have a few action items for you. We would encourage you to go in and update your ProAdvisor profile. You can see here we've added some in-product discovery that will help you, really hone in on the sections that we're asking you to focus on, the first being services and the second being the consultation flag. With that, the updates that you should be focusing on are removing credentials from the name fields. We found that many ProAdvisors have appended CPA or other credentials to the end of their name. And now that we are showing that, we want to ensure that those are up to date. Also ensure that your credentials are up to date. Everything listed in the credentials section is up to date. The next thing that you want to verify is ensure that the free consultation section identifies that you offer a free consultation if that is the case. And lastly, make sure that you update the services section of your profile. This will go live starting next week, and the new in-product discovery will ensure that you are interacting with that profile once these changes are live. And with that, I'll turn it over for questions.
Okay, thanks, Leah. That was quick. So if you have questions related to this, we have some very specific questions. So keep those very specific questions coming in. We're going to cover a few here. But the rest of those answers, because a lot of these are real specific, so we try to answer the questions that are relevant to the greater audience here. But one question I'd like to ask, Leah, is when are these new features available?
Yes, so we have some of the features are currently live. For instance, the new free consultation feature is live, but the new changes that will involve the new services will be launching next week, and we're targeting for Wednesday.
Okay, so here in about a week, we'll be seeing, next week sometime, we'll see most of the rest of these features rolling out to everybody then, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a kind of a short list of services available. What's the thinking behind that? Okay, so is somebody EA? What kind of credentials? Kind of there's a whole bucket of kind of related questions on why do we limit it and what options do they have available on that?
Sure.
Even if you go back to that page, if that might be helpful.
Yeah, so the new services are they're actually going to be almost 40 services that you will be able to identify as being available for your clients to search by now. So the current list is only about 11 services, and we found that that just wasn't large enough to help those clients that were searching find a good match. And so we've expanded that list based on search data, as well as the services that we found were being offered by the ProAdvisors in our marketplace to really generate a good list from both sides of the market.
So it sounds like we were using what's really happening out there in the real world when people are searching for ProAdvisors and industry categories for that choice, not just something, hey, I'm a guru in XYZ. That may not be something anybody searches for. Is that right?
Yep. We actually leveraged Google search data to determine how we were going to create the new set of services. And so we wanted to make sure that that experience was consistent all the way from when they were looking for someone in a search engine and then getting directed to our page, so that everything was consistent along the whole way.
Well, it brings up another thing I want to highlight real quick here is the whole idea that we want to make your ProAdvisor practices found by Google searches, and that's, you just heard from Leah, the product manager there, that's one of the things. So if you do have a suggestion or a request, go ahead and give us feedback on that. We always want feedback, and you have an opportunity to give us all kinds of feedback here in the question box, and she's going to see all of these later. Last payroll updates, we got 3 of them. Instant bank account connection, same day, direct deposit. We had touched on a little bit, some of these slightly last month, but also we have some account ID changes coming up with Intuit Online Payroll. And for these payroll updates today, we have Amy Au. She's a product specialist in Mountain View. She's really an advocate, and every time I've worked with her, she is always really diligent about making sure things work really well. Had a chance to meet her and work with a few things with her. And she also likes traveling and seeing new sites. So as you can see, all these people are real people. These guys make this product better for us. So welcome today, Amy.
Thank you, Wes. I really appreciate the chance to speak here. I definitely wanted to join this presentation today to share out some of the hard work that's been rolling out from our online payroll team. The first topic today is actually instant bank account connection. So this currently exists within the QuickBooks Online payroll space, And actually, as of last December, we rolled it out into QuickBooks Online full service payroll.
Amy, if you could speak up a little bit, that'd be great.
Sure. How is this? Okay.
Yeah, just.
I'll try to speak louder. So the benefits of our instant bank account connection here is really, we've been working really hard to try to help our clients and customers who are processing payroll to improve the speed to get their employees paid. And so with instant bank account connection, we really have cut down the amount of time it takes to set up a bank account from an average of 4 to 5 business days to about 20 seconds. With this, as a customer signing up within their bank account, we have an opportunity for them to actually enter in the credentials for any of the 8 banking institutions that you see here. And so if you have a client who currently works with Bank of America, they'll enter in their user ID and password. We'll go through all the necessary support checks to make sure that, you know, there isn't any fraud or that their account is in good standing. And then from there, they're actually able to issue direct deposit. Again, 20 seconds, you'll be up and running. So one of the huge benefits of this is that, as I mentioned, we did roll this out to QuickBooks Online payroll customers back in December of 2015 for all new clients, and we rolled it out. Also, we expanded our reach to full service payroll customers last December, and so everyone who's signing up at this point will see this workflow. The benefit again here is that we don't actually have to wait for a test transaction amount. So with those 8 banking institutions, as soon as they enter in their credentials and they're good to go, as I said, they're ready for direct deposit. If you do not currently have a client who works with one of these banking institutions, we will still go through the manual process of connecting to a bank account, which does include verifying a test transaction. So it does take a little bit more time, but we're still working with you to try to get everyone up to speed as soon as we can. The next feature that I'd like to showcase here is actually same-day direct deposit. And this is rolling out specifically to our US-based QuickBooks full-service payroll customers. And so we may have spoken, or we addressed this in previous webinars, but we recently rolled out a 24-hour direct deposit, and that's available to QuickBooks Online payroll and also the full-service payroll customers. But this added benefit of same-day direct deposit actually decreases the amount of time it takes for us to approve and get employees paid. So now with full-service customers, they have a cutoff time of 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the business day of payroll. And really what this does is allows more flexibility for these employers to be able to hold on to their money a little bit longer in case there are any instances of emergencies or a natural disaster perhaps where an employer doesn't have the opportunity to get in front of their computer right away, or something happens and they can't. Same-day direct deposit really provides a lot of flexibility for these employers. So again, these 2 features, signing up for direct deposit and getting up and rolling in, you know, same day, as well as same day direct deposit. These are 2 options that we have really to get direct deposit to these employees and get individuals paid faster. The third update that I'd like to mention here for our online payroll customers is really in the world of the Intuit Online Payroll for accounting professionals. And so for those, we did actually attempt to migrate user ID and passwords, and it's for security purposes. We definitely want to increase security as well as make sure that customers are better protected when it comes to their payroll information. And so we're at login starting March 5th for this effort. We will actually be prompting customers to change their user IDs and passwords if they haven't already. And so This does move us over to the Intuit centralized credentialing system, and so they'll just have one user ID. If they do use other Intuit products, there is a chance that we will expose the Intuit brand. It's a little bit different from the experience before where we tried to hide that experience. But with this effort right now, we did hear a lot of feedback from our customers when we attempted to migrate user IDs back in August through October of last year. We heard a lot of feedback, and based off of that feedback from our accounting professionals, this time around, we've actually created a dedicated support line that you can provide for yourself and your clients to call in, and our team will answer the phone saying online payroll. We'll be able to troubleshoot and work with your clients to get them migrated over to this more secure login process. This dedicated support line is available for a short time, so from March 5th when we decide to enable this migration effort to May 4th, and it'll be available during our normal business hours, so Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific time. I did speak to this a little bit earlier, a slight change in the experience at this time, but with these user ID migrations, there will be times when the Intuit branding is exposed, and so I just wanted to give our accountants a heads up on this experience, but we've enabled the opportunity for clients now to complete self-service password resets, and so once they're migrated over, there is an opportunity to actually see the Intuit branding, but at this point they won't have to call you anymore for any assistance, but they will see that. And also with the browser security certificate. This is something that with the added security benefits here, when a customer does go to managepayroll.com, it will say Intuit there because we are the domain on the back end. If you have any further questions about this, feel free to go to our community help article and we'll be there to provide more information. We've also provided a document where you can actually generate and give to your clients in order to kind of communicate more about this experience with them. So at this point, I just wanted to check to see if there are any questions. I know I had quite a few updates for you.
Okay, thanks, Amy, for that. If you could go back to that last slide there, I'd just like to mention that. Okay, so two things on the branding like that where it says Intuit. There's domain registration and ownership there that comes through on security certificates, so that's why that comes through. It's not that we're trying to take your customers away. And also, in the handout, they'll have this slide, but I want to highlight that last line right under where it says QuickBooks Community Help Article, changes to accountant and client online payroll logins. I don't think I have a link for this in the handout or resources, so but when you get this slide, that will be your search term to get to that page. I just want to highlight that so that way we can kind of deflect a few questions right there. Also, we talked on the, we got a couple of things there, bank connections. So let's deal with the bank connections first. How come only 8?
We found that with the 8 banking institutions, it does cover roughly about 50 to 55% of our client base. We're definitely, getting feedback in terms of which additional banking institutions we can bring on. But that was at launch, that was the initial rollout for those. Okay, so the chances of us having more coming through, depending upon the volume of those bank connections, is pretty real then? There is a good chance. Of course, we're always keeping our ear to the ground for feedback, and so as more demand comes through for a specific banking institution, we'll certainly work with those.
Okay, well that's going to, I'm sure for those that have those banks, and if it's over 50% of the bank connections, that's going to be real helpful. Real quick connections, that's going to be good. Also, around the same day, 7 a.m. direct deposit, we're also ingrained by having a Wednesday 5 p.m. cutoff for payroll. A lot of questions around contractors, IOP, the other different payroll products. So if you could just reiterate who has the 24-hour and who has that same day available, and those that are not listed obviously won't have it. So if you could kind of address that.
Yes. For today, at this point, both QuickBooks Online Payroll and QuickBooks Full Service Payroll customers will have the opportunity for 24-hour direct deposit. And these are individuals who are in good standing with their bank accounts and our practices. The same-day direct deposit benefit, which will roll out in mid-February now, this same-day direct deposit benefit will actually be available at no additional cost to QuickBooks Full Service Payroll customers only. So it is an added benefit that we wanted to offer to our more premium, or to the premium service. The feature will be there. We're not going to explicitly advertise this in the product, but say, for instance, if a customer did log in, a full service payroll customer with QuickBooks, if they did log in and they needed to run a payroll on Friday morning to pay their employee by Friday afternoon, they will see the opportunity there as long as they get in before 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Well, and you just mentioned one more thing, though. If they get in by 7 a.m., when is the cutoff that the bank is required to submit that to somebody's bank account?
That's an excellent question. Legally, the banks have the entire business day to post the funds. But what we have found with the same-day direct deposit transactions that occur is that typically the funds will post a little bit later in the day than what a employee would be normally accustomed to, had the employer approved the transaction a little bit earlier, either on a 24-hour direct deposit or prior to that. So with the same-day direct deposit, there is a chance where the funds will post a little bit later in the day, but we still have the opportunity from a banking perspective. They still post within that 24-hour period.
Okay, well, that's real helpful because I know sometimes people get excited when they get up in the morning, they don't have their direct deposit funds there. So just wanted to clarify that the bank has till, whenever that day, till tomorrow is kind of what it is. We're not going to really deal with the IOP ID issue. We're going to have a support number for that, but we want you to be prepared for that. Obviously, anytime we do any of these security updates, we always have some issues, and it never goes as well as we'd like, and that's why we're going to make sure we have that. But I wanted to give you the heads up so you can be prepared for that. So with that, thanks, Amy, today for presenting that. That's real helpful. And we will give you updates on the next webinar as these things start rolling out. So thanks for that presentation today, Amy.
Thank you.
And we are going to do our next poll question. So let's go ahead and get that launched. Oops, wait a minute. No, we don't do the poll question right now. Okay, so I'm jumping ahead of the game. I apologize. So I'm kind of hitting the, but this will prepare you for the next presentation. QuickBooks Capital, I mentioned it last time. What happens when owners don't get the loan they need for their business? What is the tale? What's the story? What's going on there? What happens? So everybody's got a story. They don't have enough money to get through the humps, through the lean spots, seasonal things. You probably had those conversations with a number of businesses. So if you have, choose the other. Please put some the comments in that question box so we can get, what's the hardship for the businesses when they don't have money for what they want. We do. And we are going to be providing some services here that you're going to find out about here momentarily. So all of the above looks like it's taken the cake. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, lack of money. I know every month I always have a lack of money. I have big dreams and not enough paychecks, so I understand how that works. I used to be in business myself. So anyway, last call, last 2 seconds here on this, so let's choose something. And okay, let's close that. Let's go ahead and share that. So you can see well over 3/4 have all of the issues. So it's going to be helpful to get some answers here as we move forward. And to talk about funding, we have our QuickBooks Capital team. So QuickBooks Capital, we have Jacob Cabell, and we kind of discussed what the whole topic is about. So welcome today, Jacob. He's been
Thank you very much.
He's a product manager in Mountain View. He's got a passion for dealing with complex problems and elegant solutions, and that's exactly what this topic is. I have to be careful if I get a poker game with him. He's liable to take my money. So anyway, thanks for presenting today, Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Wesley talked about, I'm going to talk a little bit about QuickBooks Capital, start off with a little bit of why we're doing it, which you got a little sneak preview there from the poll, and then what we're actually offering, and then how you can actually see it in product, or how your small business clients can see it in product. So when we talk about the why, you know, approximately half of small businesses go out of business in their introductory years, in a couple of years. And when talking to both small businesses and accountants, we've learned that one of the biggest pains is cash flow. It's just not having the money when you need it. And because of that, we know that approximately 70% of our customers apply for loans. And yet still 2 out of 3 of them are getting declined. And the customers that are getting declined tend to be the smaller businesses, the ones that don't have as much you know, business history, and it's kind of this vicious cycle of, I want business credit, but I can't get business credit because I haven't had a business loan yet. And you know, going to that poll question, we know that when small businesses don't get funded, you know, 72% of them are missing opportunities where they could take advantage of growth opportunities, hiring additional staff, doing marketing campaigns. 65% are commingling personal and business expenses, doing anything they can to make sure that that their business stays afloat and that it's all working. And then there's also a large number of people who are actually taking out personal loans. They're going on their personal credit cards. They're trying you know, anything they can in order to make ends meet and to make sure that their business thrives. And so this is the problem that we wanted to solve on QuickBooks Capital. And the reason that we believe that we could do this was because of the relationship that we have, and the relationship we have with you know, accountants and pro-advisors, as well as with our small business customers, and the data that they trust us with, that you all trust us with. And because of that, especially for newer businesses, we can understand their story in a way that you know, really nobody else can. And because of that, we're able to fund a lot of these businesses. And in fact, QuickBooks Capital has been in production. It's been alive and ready for about a year, and more than half of the small businesses we funded had either never applied for a loan before because they didn't think they could you know, get it, or had already been declined. So that's who we're serving, and that's why we're doing it. Now, I wanted to get a little bit into the kind of nitty-gritty here of what are we actually offering? What is the product that that small businesses can take? So we're doing short-term term loans, and the idea there is similar to, you know, that same-day ACH. It's how do we get money into small businesses' hands quickly, and how do we make it so that, you know, they don't have to worry about seasonality or having a single client who maybe doesn't pay them on time. So the loan amount ranges from $5,000 to $35,000. It's a 6-month term, so it's a relatively, you know, short gap, a gap filler. And again, this is focused on the newer, smaller businesses. And so we know there are QuickBooks customers who, you know, $35,000 may not mean that much for. They may go for $100,000 or $250,000. But we really want to focus in on those small businesses that aren't able to get that kind of funding, and this makes a huge difference to them. The question that always comes up, and of course I would always expect it from this group as well, is okay, what's the cost? What's the APR? So on these short-term loans, the APR ranges from 10% to 18%, and that's based on you know, the credit profile of both the business itself and the owner who is guaranteeing the loan. Now, in real dollars, what does that mean? So 10% you know, APR on a $5,000 loan for 6 months means that they're going to pay back $5,130. It's $130 of cost. We have no fees, and customers can pay back at any time without a penalty. So they're only paying interest, and they're only paying interest on the money that they have outstanding at any given time. So one thing that I'll note is some of you may have seen this, some of you may not have seen this. The reason for that is some of our customers are eligible to be underwritten and to apply for a loan, and we actually have a subset of customers who are not yet eligible to be underwritten. And the big things that we're looking at there is, cleanliness of data. As I'm sure many of you have very close to your heart, a lot of times the data that's entered by small businesses is not complete, is not accurate. And so, getting that data cleaner is not just making their lives easier, it's not just making your lives easier, but it actually could help them, get a business loan. For those who are eligible, I'm going to actually switch over to this and show you what the experience looks like. This screen looks very similar to what you saw before. You would come, or your client would come into QuickBooks Online, and they would see, a capital tab, basically on the left nav. And if they were eligible, they'd come to this page. So what can you do with $35,000 from QuickBooks Capital? Very easy to tell what the loan cost is, extremely transparent. Again, no fees. And they can select whatever they want between $5,000 and $35,000. So then they click apply. What happens is they come into this screen, and this screen will get actually pre-filled with any information from QBO. So if we've got it already, then you'll be good to go. There might be something that your client wants to change, or the small business needs to change or add, and then they can go ahead and click next. At that point, they're going to enter in some personal information. So we're collecting. It may seem odd that we're collecting personal information. It's a business loan. But we do have this business loan guaranteed by the business owner. And the reason we do that is so that we can give this loan without any collateral. So these loans aren't backed by equipment, they're not backed by real estate, they're really backed by the promise of our small businesses that they'll pay us back. So they enter, again, this will get pre-filled from QBO. None of the sensitive information will get pre-filled, and so that still has to be validated. We do ask for the full Social Security number, and we do that for a couple of reasons. The most important reason is we want to verify the identity of the person on the other end of the computer. It's extremely important that we know who's applying, and that the person who is applying is who they say they are, so that no one is able to take a loan out in someone else's name. So once they fill all that in, they are actually agreeing to be underwritten. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that we're going to be using QuickBooks data, and we're going to be using some bank data to actually underwrite our customers, and we are asking for explicit consent and really want them to understand what data we're using and how we're using it to help them. So they'll consent, click next, and then finally they'll put in a business bank account. And that bank account will be where we deposit the funds as well as take out any payments should they accept the loan. So they submit, a couple of minutes, we're off to a great start. A customer may come into a manual underwriting phase, in which case they'll get an answer within 2 to 3 business days. Otherwise, they may get an answer immediately. So now if you're approved, or if a client is approved, they'll receive a couple different types of notification. One will be an email where we let them know, hey, almost there, we've got an offer for you, just got to take the final step and accept. And then in product as well, in that capital tab, you'll be able to see, hey, your loan's been approved, and you can come in and accept it. So in this case, you're at the end, and maybe you applied for $25,000. You think, oh, that's great, I got it, but I really only need $10,000 right now. You can go ahead and actually change this amount down, and then if you click next, you'll see the full terms of the loan. We want to make sure that people are reading this, and we know that a customer may not read this entire thing, but we've got some really important information at the top here. Then if you go to the final page, we've got a summary of the terms themselves. So we've actually abstracted this out of the document to make sure that customers understand what they're getting into, and how this might actually impact their business going forward. Finally, they accept the terms and get funded. And then we send the money into their bank account, and they receive it within 1 to 2 business days. Now let's say that a couple of weeks go past, they've made a couple of payments, then there's actually a loan management portal within QuickBooks Online that you can also get to within the Capital tab. So you come to the Capital tab, and what you'll see is a couple of things. One is the summary of the loan, so how much has been paid, how much is left, and also the payment history. And within the payment history, you'll see the breakout between principal and interest of every single payment, so that you and your client can know exactly what was paid to principal and what was paid to interest as a business expense. So I know that I flew through that. I'm going to come back here and open it up. Are there any questions that I can help answer?
Yeah, we got a bunch of questions, but let me kind of give some general here. 10 to 18%, that sounds kind of high. So if you could just talk to maybe how this offering compares to other major financial loans out there, because this is kind of unique, I think. And kind of what's the basis? I mean, because obviously if we're not having any collateral, so obviously the higher interest rate, maybe, is that something to do with the, so just you can kind of frame that whole thing, and so they get a feel why this is a little bit different, but yet it's still going to be really helpful.
Yeah, so actually, I know that the 10%, 18% sometimes seems a little scary. Those are actually the lowest rates you'll probably see for this type of product. Unless you have a big line of credit from a bank, then you may be looking at 4 or 5% APR. Otherwise, if you're looking for a short-term loan and you're a smaller business, lots of times the APRs get up to 40, 50, 60% if you look at all other alternative lenders. One of the things that we wanted to make sure is that we disclose the APR. A lot of other products actually don't. They only disclose the cost. And so, they might go around and say, hey, we've got a 10% cost for a 6-month loan, which means, you're paying $500 on that $5,000 loan, when remember that our 10% APR loan, you only paid $120 on that $5,000. And so I know that it seems a little high, but for commensurate products, it's actually just about the lowest in the market right now.
Yeah, and I noticed that those rates are lower than all my credit cards say they want from me as well. Right. So obviously, one thing you want to highlight here is you referenced other collateral loans, and obviously home equity loans and some of these others are based on your credit. And this, let me just kind of clarify, this is based on people that don't have credit from the normal lending sources, right?
That's correct. The vast majority of our customers have never had a loan before.
So how do we issue a loan when nobody else will?
That's a great question. So, when customers are using QuickBooks Online and they are entering in data about their receivables, about their sales, about their expenses, we have the ability to see that data, when they let us, and that's data that nobody else really has been able to use or look at. And so we're able to really fully understand the customer story, even from a really early age of the business, and that enables us to understand what they might do in the future and what their next couple of months even looks like from a cash flow standpoint. So the the information they're putting into QBO, that data, it really allows us to lend to customers where other lenders would just have no idea of what to do.
So in other words, if they have their books up to date and they pay their bills good, that's bottom line kind of what we're looking at, right?
Exactly. That's correct.
So there's some more business for you got accountants out there to make sure all your clients' books up to date. And so you should see on the right side of your screen that little paper icon. That's where the handout is, where the links that are related to the slides, except for that one beta. That's why I want to pause on that. And that'll be in the recording, which will be posted here in about a week on our webinar page. Now you say, where's the webinar page? Well, that webinar page is right there on that bottom link. We want to make sure that you have the link for the ProAdvisor training, and then make sure you get your profiles up to date, because we want to make sure that your profile for your ProAdvisor brings in clients. And tax season, we have a lot of people coming in for tax business, so we want to make sure we cover that. And that link, you don't have to write down these links. Those links are in the handout. and they will also be in the email that will follow up in about an hour from now. So we are going to actually give you a couple of moments back on your day today. So I want to give you say thanks for attending today. Check our Accountants Help Hub. These videos will be on the YouTube channel. We had some major branding rollouts, so check out the YouTube channel for Intuit. Got a lot of commercials and a lot of new branding stuff going on there. We have accountant blog that I work with some of the team on that, getting that information out to you in a timely manner. One thing I also want to make sure is we do have an online feature request site, so there will be a link for that. And be sure, if you have suggestions, feedback, and you heard it in every single presentation today, we developed this, and a lot of this, the way it rolls out, is because of your feedback. So we do hear your feedback, we listen to it. We may not be able to personally respond to every question, but we try to incorporate as much of the feedback as humanly possible. So we want to thank you for attending today. We'll see you February 27th for another 90-minute. We already have a full agenda for the February 27th, and you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for attending today. Bye-bye.